sticks to it, just so you can kind of see that information right in front of your face. I tried to stick to the facts that I thought you guys would be the most interested in. And so now you'll get an update on every division at the Parks Department. You'll also get for youth services, some of our revenue generating ones, programs, youth services, aquatics. You'll start to get demographic information like this, but you'll also get comparisons to last year, where we are at this year. And then as we get down to youth services, I like to tell you guys where we're at for each school. So you can see right here, and even just today, I think we finished this Wednesday, we submitted this. Even today, those numbers are higher than they are right now. But we can really tell what schools are going to be the highest schools and what schools are going to be the lowest schools. And I'll give you that for each month, because every month it's going to be different. And then as we get down to revenue, you can see we're doing very well on revenue. I believe that next month we'll hit our year goal for revenue, just based on my projections. The only thing that is worrying to me is just our MAP goal, just because it was really cold June, so many rainy days, the Canada fires and the air quality. What's helped us a little bit is Marion County pools did shut down for a couple weeks, so we did see a big uptick in the amount of people that came those 2 weeks. I think we're going to get really close to it, but we will reach our ultimate goal by the end of it.
So in addition to any of those other factors that you just named off, because that was one thing that I had questions about, do you think that it was, that last year was almost like the newness of it was exciting and more people came, or do you think it's these other
No, I think it's the weather. It's been so cold that we couldn't even open for swim lessons some mornings, because you can't open under 71 degrees, because especially kids can get hypothermia in that type of weather. So you saw a decrease in programs because we were booked the entire summer for swim lessons, and then we had to do reschedules. Also with that is how cold it was, depending on if a lot of people came, because we still aren't at the end of the project because we haven't finished that pedestrian crossing. So until we finish that, we can't add our pool heater, because that's the last thing we want to add. And so that's really affecting a lot of I get questions daily. Is it heated? Will it be heated? What's the pool temperature? And that's the biggest factor. The parents don't want to be cold when they swim. The kids don't care. I don't want to be cold when I swim. And then, just shutting down for the rainy days. We had 2 specific days that I can remember where they were huge days for us, and they rained the entire day. So it really does affect, if it is blazing hot, the pool is packed no matter what. And we saw that. Anytime it was in the 80s, our pool was packed. Anytime it was below that, it's scarce. I said, I think we're going to get really close to it. It's just that one that makes me nervous, but we will hit our revenue goal by next month.
Okay. Thank you.
I like new format, by the way.
Thank you.
Not as fancy as them yet, we'll get there, hopefully by the end of the report. Couple things on the report. Congrats to Boaz Frederickson, finishing his probationary year. He's the only person who did a service award this past month. As you move through the report, I know you guys can read those yourself. Couple notable things in here. Starting off with the EMS and fire training, they've been working together to define how we're going to do training moving forward. Not all this is written. I'm just giving you guys some kudos and shout outs here real quick. And then, we've been busy doing the protocols. So Chief Weininger's been busy at the neighboring departments going around and doing that. That's taking a lot of manpower away from EMS training and our EMS divisions. Couple of employees. All of our employees do a good job. Obviously, 2 weeks straight, you guys have been here. I appreciate it. 2 months straight, you've been here. I appreciate you guys' attendance and staying informed. 2 notable people I'd like to bring up is Rob DeStamp and Storisha Wells. Star and Rob attended a mega code practice with Hendricks Regional Health's cardiac rehab staff. Chief Weininger and Chief Phillips, our battalion chief, both attended and observed. Both Rob and Star worked well with the staff, represented Washington Township in a professional manner, and that was recognized by the staff as well. So appreciate them. And then that also rolls into the next thing. Then we had a fire on Foxborough. that fire on Foxborough, Rob and Star are together again, right? The dynamic duo here. Got a call from a safety board member when they were directing traffic. And a lot of times on a fire scene, people are really careless. They come in, they're running over hoses, they're driving through the scene, even though they can see tons of rigs there. And you just never know who you're dealing with. And sometimes it's easy for any of us at any time, whether you're the staff or part of the fire scene itself, to just kind of get a little emotional and people get on your nerves, right? That's just normal. I mean, we have a lot of things going on, a lot of roles that everybody's playing, and plus we have to direct traffic, right, until police show up. Anyway, Alex Brand, neighboring battalion chief, also a safety board member, calls me up and says, I've never been redirected so politely in my life. So to say that in some of the heat of the moment, times like that, is huge. And then that fire was on Foxborough. So Amanda, you know that neighborhood pretty well. To get the compliments from the people in the neighborhood for the job well done, that's kudos to everybody in here. People knowing their job, going to work, doing their job, regardless of how often these happen. They've been happening more often, but people just going in and performing the way they're expected to perform and doing it with enthusiasm. So I appreciate you guys. Pass it on to the other shifts. It's continued, whether it's in our district or other districts. The department's reflecting well on the community, and that's being fed back to us through various things. And you never know who you're serving. It doesn't matter that it was a board member's neighbor. It doesn't matter if it was a safety board member, but that's a reflection of what's happening day in and day out. So I appreciate them for that.
Just really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Give my side. So I cannot say thank you enough to everyone, because you do get that phone call. I got the phone call. We, on that cul-de-sac here, we kind of all love one another and help each other. We're truly the best neighbors. I got a phone call from the one neighbor letting us know, look at your ring. The house straight across the street is on fire, and your heart just sinks. Who's home? Did the pets get out? Right, that's your first instinct whatsoever, just making sure that everyone is safe. After that, it's the trickle effect, and everyone is in shock. So as our neighbors are running down the street with wet clothes and different things and getting the dogs out, the fourth grader is in shock and she's shaking. The one thing that they said was, I cannot thank enough the crew that was there, because you guys knew exactly what to do. Everyone stay calm. When this happens, people are in shock. And so as you're going through the house, and they said, don't worry, we do this all the time. And it was grab the CPAP machine, grab your medication, those are the things I would have never thought of. And to have that calm, cool, collected when it's your life that just got destroyed. That's the closest it's ever hit home to me. Whoever got the turtle out, that was like the hero of the night. I don't know who got the turtle. The gerbils got out, the dogs got out, the humans got out, and then it was the little girl was down the street screaming because her pet turtle wasn't out. And someone came out with the turtle. And so it's little things like that I know it sounds silly, but if that turtle had died, it would have been bad. So horrible situation that could have ended much worse. It's still catastrophic for this family, but the fact that you were there, I just can't say enough of everyone from start to finish. So thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Never know you serve. And it shouldn't matter who it is, but you never know how this will come back around. Another positive note, we did promote Courtney Lee to our public educator, so she's doing a dual role. Job descriptions approved today, and then we'll start our process to hire a new admin assistant. To fire prevention, they've asked for a lot, they've done a lot. But again, I think that's going to be a good reflection to make an overall community risk reduction program. So we're going to realign her. That's how it used to be in the past. That's how it is in a lot of departments. So that way they can play off with each other. So if they find violations in the public, she can go out and educate. That's how we hope that works from this point forward, creating a good dynamic within that division. And that job description's in here too. Again, not written to approve for a person, but to currently align it under the fire marshal versus reporting to myself or an admin or other deputy chief. So some of the talks in fire and our alignment and staffing and all that moves over to the charts that you guys have. Looking at our runs and everything we're at, we're projected, if you look at the cumulative run total on year to date was 3,852. That's 288 runs. We're going to be well over 8,000 runs this year. Right now, we're using a rough projection of about 8,200 runs. Okay. Another number under staffing for monthly hours of overtime. I know that's one that you all, that's on the first page, sorry to go back and forth a bit. Covers overtime, 1,313 hours. That's approximately 2 people over our minimum staffing. Allowing 4 people off on PTO, plus any sick call-ins, long-term sick, ESL, FMLA, whatever. We are putting things in place to try to control the controllables. It's not going to be popular, but there are things we're doing to start trying to curb these overtime costs outside of our hiring plans. Okay, it's working through policy. So those things are being put in place so we can have answers other than saying, hey, we're doing that's just how it is and this is what we're living with, right? We're moving forward and trying to make real solutions. And then we'll just have to wait for time to see how those progress and the results they show. So understand that's in process now. And those are under discussion. The policy's out. It's under review for 30 days. There's going to be a lot of talks between us and the union, and some of the employees, as we further explain that, clean it up. It's really, the expectation hasn't changed, but the definition has changed. So that's where we're at with that to try to help curb overtime costs. Last thing with fire investigations, the UAV program is in service. Levi and Tom did do the UAV search and rescue ops course in Texas and completed that successfully. They already had their pilot's license. They went down there and did a series of exercises to make sure that they were a resource for us when they got back and understood what they were doing and the capabilities of our drones, the cameras, the infrared systems, and everything we paid for to be able to use in the community. So that is officially in service now and operational and all our call strings. It is on our running. All right. So last chart last series of charts you're going to look at. Move on down to the next one, the bar charts. This is our social media. This is going to become a bigger focus as we move forward. I'm torn on this, social media and the website. Sometimes putting things out is a great thing. Other times putting it out creates controversy and comments. Luckily on the fire side, we don't have to deal with that as much as police. We've got our different views on it. Sometimes social media can lead to lawsuits if you don't handle it correctly. Again, it's a liability out there for us. We have to make sure that when comments are made, if we don't like them, they stay. We don't delete them. It's a freedom of speech thing. It's already been decided here in the state of Indiana through case law, I think, in Beech Grove, right? So we careful. We have to manage it correctly. That'll be getting turned over to Courtney Lee. I took it in March on Facebook. I did not have the Instagram and Twitter information at the time. So we can see a slight bump. And what we want to do on social media is concentrate on our people and our department. And that's going to be our goal on all 3 platforms. There'll be some information about runs, but everybody knows what's going on in the public. They know about 911. They see the lights and sirens. What the community wants to know through social media and what we want to keep them up on is what we're doing, how we live, what we eat, what we cook, what it's like from our point of view, looking at the emergencies that we deal with without the blood and guts. By people in the schools in the past, why we put the things up we put up, it's because we don't have honor students. I don't have band. I don't have football, choir, a positive event. It's 911. So we're not putting the death and destruction. Why can't you put the positive things up that our people do? Because the things that our people do that are extraordinary, things they do for people behind closed doors, sometimes out there. Some of the worst moments. Some of them are their more shameful moments. So we have a lot of positive things that go unpublished. So what you see are the car wrecks, the fires, the stuff that's outside that you can walk down the street and see. There's a lot more going on with social media shows. So how these charts trend, I mean, it's a little bit arbitrary, but we can kind of control what's out there and what people see, and what I want them to see is our department and our people. So that's our goals there. Any questions you guys have?
You have Facebook and Instagram on here, and you said you're gonna have Twitter as well?
We will.
Okay.
Just got the passwords that got to reset. Instagram, I was not posting to. Was trying to figure out the passwords and get everything to work and correlate. So we did gain followers. I think we can look at new Instagram followers. I posted absolutely nothing on Instagram throughout this time. So the only thing I was messing with at the time was Facebook, and we had other obligations. Social media, we try to do our best.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
On the apparatus out of service on
Yes.
on the 144 EMS,
Uh-huh.
Was that staffing, was that apparatus, combination of both?
It wasn't out of service for EMS, it was just EMS only. That has to do with qualification. Our fixing, we just finished an officer process, and on Wednesday, the safety board will approve that list for promotion. That's not necessarily going to solve the out of service time. We will have a full-time officers. 3 of them were on a certain shift where they were already the backup, so I'm just pulling from our backup. We'll tell you, we've done an instructor class that a number of people in this room and on the other shifts have taken. That's step 1. They're also in the middle of an Officer 1 class right now. It's going on for the next month. Once they finish Officer 1 and Instructor 1, those will be the basic qualifications to become backups. Once we start getting backup people in, and we start getting write-outs and they get qualified, that will start solving the problem as a whole.
It's part of the process.
That is part of the process, and it's not a short process because the education takes time, the write-outs take time, and getting them comfortable pushing the buttons and riding in the right front seat takes time. Not an immediate solution, though.
I wasn't looking for an immediate.
No, I know. I wish we had one, though. I'll tell you that. Yeah. Anything else?
Right, trustee report.
So you have my report in front of you. You will see on there, the first topic that I brought up is the ordering of a new ladder truck. As we discussed individually before, we were facing a substantial price increase on an opportunity to purchase a new ladder truck. The new ladder truck that we ended up ordering is going to be very, very similar to ladder 141, which is the vehicle that this one will be replacing. Ladder 141, as we've talked before, is continuing to age. It's continuing to get higher and higher miles on there. And just a vehicle that size, it's just simply wearing down. And so we need to get something going in order to eventually replace that truck. And right now, with the order that we just submitted, we're looking at a 30-month build out. So we're talking 2.5 years for us to see the vehicle that we're ordering right now today. We need to get this going. So this was a good opportunity. We were able to jump on board with that. I appreciate everybody's flexibility because I certainly wanted to have you all involved in those conversations before I signed that contract. And thank you, Jeff Bellamy, for helping us out with that as well. Because again, we want to make sure that we are doing this the right way, making sure that all those I's are dotted and those T's are crossed. So we do have the replacement now ordered for ladder 141. It's going to be a while before we see it, but it's good to know in the back of our mind that that we will have that truck coming eventually to us. That's going to essentially, unless I'm forgetting one, that should complete the build out of our fleet. Then, as far as fire apparatus goes, the only thing that we should be looking over the next several years would be a new battalion chief's truck, I believe we'll be looking at, as well as eventually we're going to be looking at some additional ambulances, or not additional, replacement of some ambulances. I don't want to say additional. We'll start that one, but no, it's the replacement of some ambulances as those become necessary as well. So we're really in a good spot as far as fire apparatus goes right now. Looking to continue that with the paramedic ambulance units as well. In addition to that, you'll see on my report, we completed meet and confer. This was something that Ray Mulvihill is here with us. This is something that the union brought to me a little while back, and this is something written in Indiana statute that allows for an organization like the firefighters union to be able to come in and have dialogue with the trustee, with the governing body of the fire department. Realistically, we were doing a lot of the things that meet and confer already. We were doing a lot of the things already that meet and confer spell out in this ordinance. This solidifies those actions, though. Ray and I already have good dialogue. Nick, who was sitting there with him, who already had to leave for a run, they come through the building. They're talking with the fire chief. They're talking with the administration. They're coming in. They're talking with me. They certainly have had opportunities to meet and talk with you, the board, as well. So again, we're doing a lot of the things already. This made the the union, officially the spokesperson for the firefighters and the paramedics here on our fire department though. So definitely a good thing. We want to continue that good working relationship with the union, and just a step in making sure that this extends that relationship. Some of my staff's probably going to get real tired of hearing me talk about this. They're going to hear it again tomorrow as well, though. But Washington Township honey, I'm so excited about bees and about honey. So when I came into office and I'm learning about all of the things that our park system does, and I learned about the Pecar Park Nature Center, one of the first questions that I had for Laura was, hey, do we have bees? Because I grew up and my grandpa always kept bees, and I'm really fascinated by them, and I just think they're really cool, and I think we should have some. And we have a beehive now. And not only do we have a beehive, we have the hardest working government employed beehive in America, because not only have we been able to harvest honey once from them, I was with Stephanie on Friday out at Pock Park, and we were able to collect 7 more frames of honey and honeycomb from our hardworking bees. And so I'm way more excited about honey than I should be, but it is very cool. And the great thing is now we have health department approval to bottle and sell the honey that we are harvesting. And all of the proceeds from the honey is going back to our bees. It's going to buy the equipment that we need to continue to harvest the honey. It's going to buy any other supplies that we need to help get them through this winter, because the winter time is hard on beehives. And we want to make this a sustainable program, and let our bees continue to thrive here at our park system. So very excited about it. We do have the honey available. We were almost out from the first batch, so I would imagine Stephanie is going to get this next batch bottled up soon enough, and we'll have more available for sale again. So sorry to my department heads who are going to be, this is my segue to the final point on my report. Sorry to my department heads who are going to be at the chamber luncheon with me tomorrow, because I'm talking about honey again. It's on my PowerPoint, but I will be speaking at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon tomorrow. So if board members, if you were planning on being there, you'll get to hear me talking about it again as well. But I am excited for that opportunity to get in front of the chamber and to speak with their members for the first time in this position that I'm at. So that's what I've got for my report, unless you have any questions for me.
I don't believe so. Okay, next up, in the old business, we have Washington Township Transportation.
So again, we have been talking about the Washington Township Transportation Program for several meetings now. And based on some new information that we have, looking closer at the budget, looking closer at the proposal from Henry County Senior Services on the long-term sustainability of this project, we have identified an issue where we have concerns about the funding moving forward with the program. The initial conversation revolved around a 2-year pilot program. We were working off some assumptions. I was working off some assumptions for sure that these numbers had already been worked through with our financial advisor. Come to find out, the numbers were not necessarily worked into the overall budget. Instead, we were working on using funds from our bank account essentially to fund this 2-year pilot program. That's an issue when we look at sustainability, because this is an expensive program for us to do. And there are concerns that we have now moving forward as to what direction should we go to either continue this program and try to make the pilot program work, or to figure out maybe another alternative for that. I did have an opportunity on Friday to meet with Marina. She and I did sit and talk, because obviously I wanted to make sure that she was first on exactly what we have going on, because I want to make sure we're doing good business with Senior Services. We have worked, put in a lot of hours and a lot of effort on making this idea happen. Now that we've come across this stumbling block, I wanted to make sure that after I notified each of you individually, she was the very next person that I called to try to get a hold of to make sure that she was aware of this as well. Because again, it's about being open and transparent. I want to make sure that we are doing good business with not just our own staff, but the others that we work with as well. Sorry, I'm talking too much. I need to-
Okay.
No, you're fine.
So essentially, where I'm at right now with Marina is I asked her which is the better alternative moving forward. We can continue with the original plan of trying to do the pilot program and at least provide the service while we can. The other alternative, and this is where I wanted her input on that, was is it better just to scrap it now, essentially cut our losses where we are today, and redirect our focus potentially in another way moving forward. She wanted to have conversation with members of her board as well. I have not had an opportunity to follow back with her. Again, she and I didn't meet until Friday. I did not have any expectation that she would try to be having these meetings over the weekend, and being Monday for this meeting today, I have not heard back from her yet. So I don't have really an opinion as far as what she would like to see. If the board would be interested in hearing it, and again, I'm certainly interested in hearing any of your thoughts or ideas on this. I would suggest that we continue to try to provide the service, assuming that senior service wants to do the same thing. We've got the van, it is striped. We do have the money in the bank already earmarked for this program. We can easily continue or start the program to work through July of next year, if not December of next year. But this is where I'm getting to the point now where I think we as a group should certainly have this conversation and discuss maybe some options or some different thoughts or ideas that you all might have on this.
And just for everyone's benefit, what's the annual cost of the program?
The proposal that we got from senior services is $87,000. And again, that is it's a high estimation because we have to plan for the what ifs. If gas prices skyrocket, if we have major mechanical failures, which we know in this first year we wouldn't anyway because the vehicle's still covered under warranty, well, we have to plan for all of the what ifs. This was similar to the proposal that Hendricks uses because they have a very similar transportation program. My understanding is they've never actually hit that estimated annual proposed number. So we don't think that we'll be at that $87,000 number, but we'd have to plan for that because of those what ifs.
And so one thing I just kind of want to share with this group too is that when there's a scenario like this, we, the 3 board members, cannot speak to one another about it. So Ryan has to come to each of us individually, and so I have to give him kudos for that. With everything else that he has going on, he had to have 3 separate meetings with all of us to get us even to where we are today, to have that conversation with Marina and allow us to have that conversation. So I just kind of wanted to update the group on that. I shared with Britt and Ryan, just so I could share with you guys, my concern about the sustainability of the program. I have been an executive director for a nonprofit, and so I was kind of looking at things from Marina's perspective, and I don't know what she will come back with. But my thoughts were, said it before, but oh crap. Here we've been working for years really on a program, and now you're telling me that I'm gonna have to come up with 90 grand to keep it going. $90,000 in the world of the nonprofits here on the local west side is not easy. It's not an easy amount to come up with. However, our concern on this side of the table is the township, right? And ensuring that we're not spending all of our cash. I think the figures were if we continued to fund it, we would be out of the rainy day fund for within 10 years, right? So that's not something I'm okay with. And that's just kind of where my thoughts were. And I had asked Ryan to talk to Marina and see what the board said. I would love to hear.
Same concern, it's a great concept, it's a great idea. I don't think the pencil or the the sustainability of it was looked at quite as in depth as what we should have when we started this project, almost a year ago. So, still like the idea. I still like that. Kind of like Ryan, I would like to keep our commitment to those 2 years. After that, it may be tough, and that may be where they have some heartburn about that. But I would still like to, even though it's not something we can do past that 2 years, that's where I would like to continue that.
But what does that impact? How does it impact that? Contractually, we committed to a 2-year pilot, whatever we want to call it. So backing off of that, because the intent was to do it, see how it impacts the. It's not going to necessarily be self-sustainable and a moneymaker. So if that was the intent that anybody went into, that it was going to be a moneymaker and it's totally sustainable, that was the intent. I think we just need to better understand all of those pieces. I don't. The unfortunate thing is I don't know enough to know what they're going to come back with. I'm not actually seeing numbers to say this is what it is, what that number is, and where we're at contractually. A lot of unknowns, and yes, I appreciate the open door concept of things, but it's unfortunate that in 1 hour we have to make decisions about this and the 5-year plan and all the plans and all the stuff that has to go into running the township, which I think is beyond ridiculous. So that's just my soapbox, so I apologize for that. But we need to work through some of that and better be able to understand these things. So we need to see what the senior services comes back at, but they had it planned that for 2 years, this would be part of that funding. If it goes away, they would have to retract from that or get funding somewhere else. So go through a little bit more.
These are certainly conversations we can continue to have. When we look at some of the township assistance numbers that we just shared, we're increasing, the demand is increasing for the direct assistance. And that, I think based on some of the conversations that I've been able to have, that direct assistance is, that's what township assistance was written for. And we have to focus on that. And we can't stretch ourselves so thin. And so we do need to look at some of these numbers harder. We need to have some more conversations, certainly loop in senior services and continue having dialogue with them to find out, if they come back and they say, well, if this is not going to be sustainable, then let's just call it done and we won't even start the program. Well, I think that makes our decision a lot easier. If she says, hey, yeah, let's go ahead and continue this, see how far we can stretch this and make this work, well, then we need to certainly come back and have more conversations to figure out what those agreements are going to look like and what how much of our funds we're willing to put towards this moving forward.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I don't want a 1 month or 2 months of township assistance to be an assumption of what the next 2 years is going to look like either. That 1 or 2 months doesn't make a trend. So I think we'd be cautious with making that the trend. The secondary piece is we've already made an investment too. So I think there's a piece of just walking away, investment of time and dollars. We don't want to just walk away from that either. So
I agree.
I think that would be foolish to do as well. So.
So we all agree that next step is just kind of waiting on feedback from Marina. And then-
Yeah, and I don't, is there some way we could do like a work session or something where we can all be in the, this is, you can sense my frustration with it.
I can sense your frustration. There are ways to address it. You could say, hey, these are the questions we want, Jeff to answer and what we can't discuss and privately all together. I can certainly memo. Hey, change the delegate, and then they can work with the trustee on this. And you can then have that person be, you know, to be able to have that communication. But yeah, it's a heck of a lot easier to have all the folks that need. You know, it's important, like, get some info, deliberate, get some more info, deliberate, and determine what we're going to do. I want to talk a little individually about how to get, you may not even know what all your legal questions are at the moment. Determine what those are and get in the meeting, we'll get away and get answers.
Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, this, and I don't know if the board would even be interested in this, an executive session is not an option. I think we determined that already. There's nothing saying we couldn't have an advertised special meeting where this topic is the only item on the agenda, essentially. Of course, that would be open for the public. Anybody else would be able to attend for that as well. But if that's something that would give us an opportunity for all three board members to sit here, we can arrange that so that senior services representation would be able to be here as well. That would afford us the opportunity to have some of this dialogue and maybe get some of these questions answered directly.
Yes, but not that this would happen here, but sometimes you ask questions of your lawyer that you would like to receive the information in private. And I have had, not here, but other clients ask me questions. I have to stop and have a long pause and go, do you really? Sometimes, even if it's just a hypothetical, I have to tell you, well, I don't think this is a great, result for you. So I'm not saying that would happen here. So I think probably you might want to take two approaches. Here are the things I need to know as a board member to make an informed decision. Then I want to have a special meeting and allow, it's called a workshop. It would just be wouldn't be one where we take feedback from the public and say, well, I think this is great. Well, I think this is terrible from the inception. It's like, well, we already had the up on this issue. And at the end, I know we have wishes to be heard. They add a comment at the end. It's not going to be a public. This third of the room wants it to stay, and this third of the room, doesn't want it, and then the middle third just had a free afternoon. So it wouldn't be.
So yeah, so that's some options for us. We can certainly, I'll reach out to each of you individually and kind of get some ideas on where we'd like to go. Certainly, as I hear back from senior services, I will keep you looped with that information as well. So.
So we have the next with the Mercury Aquatic pedestrian crossing.
I can tell you no progress on this. 2 weeks ago, Friday, I was supposed to have heard back from the town. They were expecting some more quotes to come in for the actual asphalt work itself, and I have not heard back from them. Just tied up in some of these other projects going on. I have not reached out to the town to find out if they actually received anything. So I don't have any new update to report other than we continue to get closer to the expiration date of that temporary C of O. So certainly something that we need to stay on top of. We received the initial quote for the pedestrian activated signal crossing lights. And again, we were supposed to get, the town was asking for me to try to get approval from the board to sign off on that dollar amount. I told them I wanted the total figure before, because if I come in at this number, but then I come in at an astronomical number for the asphalt, well, we're in the same situation that we were in when we were working, when Veritas was helping us find some vendors that we were going to be paying far more than any of us thought we should be paying. And so I told them I wanted to hold off on the pedestrian activated quote until I found out these asphalt numbers. Again, I was told that 2 weeks ago, Friday, I would have those numbers in front of me. I've yet to see them, so.
When does it?
You're asking about the question. Let me see about.
We got that extended through September, Laura, is that right?
It was a 6. This year.
What, May 1st, May 30th?
I don't know the exact date, I just know it's May. Because that's when they told us the update.
November 1 earliest. Um, so I'll send a communication to town manager and as well, and kind of request what this is 60 days, that same time frame in May, and that has now passed 30 days, and we gave a 30-day swag on that, so that's 60 days. Okay, Communities of Excellence Framework, it's on here, I didn't have a whole lot to talk about, I don't know, I know you put it back on, Ryan. I sent out the stuff, I don't know if any of the department directors had any chance to look. We'll bring it back next time and take a look at that if you would, we'll bring it back next time and have a discussion.
If I got it written down.
All right, new business, Maryland Mayor donation request.
New information since we sent this, I
Oh,
wanted
thank you.
to share that with you about our past year, what we have accomplished.
I'm Christy Kerr, I'm the pantry coordinator now at the Mary Lee Mayer Community Pantry.
I'm Mary Burkhart, and I'm the Vice President of the Mary Lee Mayer Pantry Executive Board.
So we just wanted to share with you, thank you for your support in the past. I've given you this is hot off the press as of last night. We have one more week to add to this, but this is our school year. We do August to July, technically. This week technically counts for this school year, but we just do August to make it easy. You can see from our numbers, we served 3,891 families up until 100, probably about 100 more that will come this week. Almost 20,000 individuals that we are serving in the past school year. So we've seen almost a 50% increase. And just like your township assistance is seeing an increase, we're seeing a huge increase. So this is just a brief overview of what we've been able to accomplish this year. The second page shows you with your grant that you provided us last year, what we were able to purchase. So last year we wrote the grant in terms of perishable food, milk, eggs, dairy products. We've since found a source for Gleaners has provided free to spend money elsewhere. So that's where we've been able, that's where we spent the money last year. And so we were just requesting a grant. If you see on the first page, our families, if they went to a grocery store, the amount of food they receive from us is about $100 worth of food a week, and then about $50 in a month worth of hygiene, paper products, whatever we have. It's not how much it costs us, but that's how much if they went to the grocery store. We are able to fund our food. We purchase soda, so we're really good at trying to stretch our dollars as much as we can to purchase food for these families that come through our door. Any questions for us, or?
I'm just gonna go through this. And you have the information on here for the supply it forward.
Yeah, that's from last
2022.
year. So last year we wrote the grant for the Supply It Forward event as well.
Yeah.
This year AEF took that on themselves. So this is what we purchased last year with the Supply It Forward grant, and then what we purchased in the last 12 months with the other grant for the food products.
Right, like itemizing exactly what the grant money was used for.
Like I said, we're able to source things less expensive. It used to be we literally would go to a grocery store and have two carts put together, pulling it through, but we can't do that anymore when we're serving 100 families, 400 something. Our pantry is unique because we let our families shop every week. We're open 44 weeks out of the year. A lot, we're part of the Henderson County Food Pantry Coalition. We're the only pantry in the coalition that lets our families shop weekly. Most places it's once a month, twice a month. So our families are allowed to come every week. We have no requirements other than they have a student in Avon Community School Corporation or they're a school employee. Those are the only two things that we ask for. And then if they come to the door, then they're able to shop. We opened back last September, so we are back in person. So they have client choice. So they actually come into the pantry now and choose the food rather than us packing a box of food and saying, here's what your family's going to eat this week. So we're really excited to be back to that as of last September. Besides the non-perishable food, we try to provide perishable things, so milk, eggs, meat, every week. Once a month, we do a hygiene bag. Then we pick up from 4 area stores fresh things like bakery and produce that's all donated, and they are able to get that every week as well. So we're really focused on trying to get them as much product as we can and to help their families get through a week.
The grant amount asked for this year? The same.
The same, yes.
Yeah, I don't have any questions either. So you speak to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. We do have an agreement that Bellamy sent over to us that spells out what it is that we're offering or we're wanting to do for them. So we just need the approval of the board, and then I can execute this agreement.
Sign up on the door that says.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, food was provided by Washington Township grant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect, great. Wonderful. I'd like to make a motion to approve a grant for the Mary.
Second. All those in favor?
I
Yep.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you for your time.
thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Sorry, I guess they paper trail off there, where was that? Okay, Township 5-year plan.
I'm like,
Well, thank you all for the opportunity to help and to be here. You know, as you've done for the last several years, you've updated your fiscal plan, and based on the conversations we've had with the trustee, with Britt, with the fire chief, we have laid out the scenario you have before you is the most expensive option discussed, and that had raises for the fire side at 4% for 24, then back to 3%, where the others 3% across that entire. As part of this fiscal plan, you know, what we try and do is look at a projection and forecast out 5 years into the future. And then what that tax impact would look like. So you did an excess levy appeal back in 2021 that gave you additional property that you have not deployed in full. If we look at the big picture of all the projects and the apparatus and buildings that the fire department was looking at, which includes 2 new stations, if we lay all that into this scenario, it fits within your revenue model based on the assumptions that we have, and we'll walk through some of those shortly. And it leaves about $340,000 a year of fire levy yet to be deployed. So that's what you would still have in reserve. It also looks at doing lease rental financings for these 2 stations, just like you've done the current station. And I think we laid those in like 26, 27. Tax rate, really similar to what you had in 2022. You've had some decrease in tax rate because of the really strong assessed value in 2023, which everybody saw across the state. But, you know, if you were comfortable with the tax rate around 2022's amount, I think you can fund all these and still have a little bit of money left over. So that's a good thing just from a summary. One of the things that I wanted to run through, we had some discussion this levy appeal when it was granted in 2021. It was granted based on a formula of population growth above a certain threshold. And then it was whatever that percentage increase above that population growth was, you could fence towards your tax levy. In 2021, that 15 cents was applied to the assessed value at that point in time, became a dollar amount. That dollar amount since then has grown as part of the maximum and the growth formula for that, which was last year was like 4.3%, this year's 5%, next year's going to be 4%. So it is no longer cents, it was cents or the equivalent of 15 cents in 2021. Since that point in time, it's been a dollar amount. I just wanted to clarify that because we had some discussion as we worked through this. One of the biggest increases that we've seen, not only here in Hendricks County, but across the state, income taxes for 2021, and I know we've talked about this before, income taxes are always a couple years behind because we're waiting for audited numbers. The big thing that everybody was real conservative on was 2021's numbers. What would it look like coming out of the pandemic? Did our income taxes increase? Did they decrease? If so, how much? So everybody took a really conservative view, both we did in our projections as the state did. The real collections for Hendricks County, 12.9%. So that's a great thing to happen. It puts you on a completely different plateau and threshold of where we're going to project future income. This does not contemplate that we're going to have any sort of recession. The economic indicators point toward recession, but you know, this has taken a fairly conservative view going forward, kept up on a new plateau of income taxes. A lot more money in here. Part of that, in 2016, the legislature fleshed out a formula that said if you have been under-distributed because of these revenue estimates by the budget agency when they distribute the income tax, you will get a supplemental distribution every May based on a certain statutory formula. So for Hendricks County in total, it was north of $16 million that got distributed in May. Your cut was about $900,000. So again, great indication that income taxes are strong, and we particularly see that in the donut counties. So that revenue stream, I think, is still conservative, but pretty comfortable. The legislative limits for maximum levy, they've tried to give some property tax relief. So they've limited the 2024 growth factor for the maximum levy. The statute is the 6-year average growth in non-farm income. But for 24, it is the lesser of 80% of that number or 4%. You're going to get 4% in 2024 for the growth. 2025, we've assumed it's still going to be 4%. And then when we get into also the homestead credit applied to your home. The first deduction is $45,000 plus if you had a mortgage, it's $3,000 more. So now it's $48,000. Then you would have had a supplemental deduction equal to 35%. 5% has been increased to 7.5 for 25. I think we'll kind of, you want me to go, I don't know how much time you want to spend on this. Do you want me to go fairly quickly through this, or do you want me to walk through fund by fund? I don't know what you're gonna say.
I like
Amanda would like fund by fund.
Yeah, I think so this time because we've got several new players in the room, so I think it's time
We
that
got
we want to go detail.
So on page 3, we have the general fund. And I know we talked about this before. The Board of Accounts has now made you put all of your income tax distributions in the general fund. I think this is ridiculous. They tried to do that to the county several years ago. They got legislation changed. I was hopeful that this legislative session that would get fixed. Time does not. Which now means that we have to stick all the revenue for the income taxes into your. You're going to have to make expenditures toward fire and recreation out of that fund. It's better when it's all in the same fund because then you have it departmentalized in that budget. But so page 3 now has the layout of the revenues as they come in down below, as well as personal services, health insurance, supplies and other services, capital. We've laid in expenditures for recreation and fire. Fund pages for recreation and fire, you'll see that there'll be negatives. And again, I was trying to make this as management friendly as I could. You'll see the full budget in recreation, you'll still see the full budget in fire, and then you'll just see a one line item reduction that it's being funded from the general fund rather than that fund itself. Again, with this, what we did was take all of the operational and capital expenditures, fund everything with this at basically a minimum. The net increase or decrease in fund, the second to the last line, as we've talked about before. To me, that's the most important in that it shows whether you're consuming cash or adding to cash. And on this part of the general fund, we're just trying to fund that because we're trying to deploy as little as we need to into the fire fund in order to fund all those operations. But again, if we need to deploy additional fire levy, we can change these numbers. So if we funded more out of the fire department with more fire levy, it would free up income tax that you could then use for other fire expenditures, other rec expenditures, or if you're looking for a funding source for the transportation, you can do that same thing here. Now, again, that would be something if you all agreed that that was something that you would want to put on the tax. This is a mechanism that you should. Page is the rainy day fund. No activity laid out in here other than when we had talked about last year, the defeasance of the old outstanding bonds. There were still tax collections to come in the December distribution bonds that were defeased. So it should have been about $400 and some thousand that the intent wasn't to go back to the rainy day fund. So I believe that did go at this point.
Rainy day fund.
In the rainy day?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the only activity really for 23. Again, you know, those funds are to your discretion, however you see fit to use. Next page is recreation. Again, revenues in the top, we've allocated some of the property tax. They have, as they explained to you earlier, they're great receipts of all the programs that they do, really active. The budgets in the bottom third section, negative 215, 249, 279. Of that budget being paid out in general. All of these we've run with the assumption that and all the appropriation Historically, they don't. There's a little pad. Last year it was really close. Again, we've just funded this to maintain the cash balance and not eat cash on an annual basis. Park Bond Fund, this is the old Park Bond Fund, which again expired in '23, had cash balance transferred to the regular fund. Next fund is for Murphy Park. In 2022, we basically levied for half a payment. In '23, we went to the full note. Again, this fund will levy property taxes just sufficient to make principal and interest payments as they come due annually. So no strain on cash flow. Money comes in, goes back out for debt service. Amortization for that goes through 2037. Again, those bonds, I believe, are callable in 10 years if there was something that you wanted to do after that. Township Assistance Fund, again, funded with property tax and just funding the service so that we're not eating or stockpiling any cash, and maintaining the 400-some-thousand in there, which is more than sufficient for any unexpected expenditure you want to make, any downturn in revenue. The fire fund, again, for '24, it lays out the as presented by the fire chief in conjunction with Fred. General fund, about 3.79 million. The other thing that I laid in 2014, and we'll come across the fire department, but they have a training building project that's about $2 million. It doesn't fit within the CUME fund, and when we get back to that CIP, I'll kind of show you where we've allocated all that to the CUME fund. This project does not fit, nor did fire stations. The fire stations are going to be expensive. You're probably going to want to do the debt financing and incur those issuance costs. This, because it's $2 million, whether we do a $2 million bond or $10 million bond, it's your professional fees. I believe that you have adequate cash reserve here to go ahead and spend the $2 million in your cash in order to fund this project and not go to the expense of financing it. Again, if you want to finance it, hold more cash, we're always happy to do those, but I try and look out for, being efficient with those, combining them with other financings if we can. C2, in these out years, we fund more and more, 4.5 million plus fire operations from the general fund. And again, that's really just from your local income tax distributions. Again, we worked this down to, at the last year, just approximately equal so that we're not consuming, stockpiling cash. But we still have a very healthy balance of north of $7 million at the end of each year. Fire equipment debt, this is the old one. It expired in 2022, had some cash balance to transfer. Amortization schedule. Next fund is 1181, the fire building lease. This is your new funded full payments in 22. 28, we've laid in potential fire stations, beginning to pay them off in 26 and 27. Again, if we do these as a lease, we will probably have to capitalize interest throughout. Are paid off completely. Big pledge as a replacement. and maybe get out of paying the capitalized interest and going right to principal and interest repayments. Be a little. But again, when you get to the point where you want to undertake these, we'll walk you through all those options on financing in the most efficient manner. But this shows, again, if you finance those, levy goes from about 380,000 a year to about $1.8 million. Like a huge increase, but you're sitting on like $4 billion in assessed value. You know, you have as much assessed value in this township as we have in a lot of rural counties around the state. You know, it's really phenomenal how much you have, and you'll see that the impact of the tax rate of going up $1.5 million is not that significant. Amortization on the new fire station that goes to 2037. Again, I believe that's callable in 10 if there's something. Live interest payments we did. Start and cash flow that project. Health fund, that's just an in and out where we collect the amount of the health insurance in the different fund budgets, transfer them to the health insurance. We assume they're all paid out. And you guys have been pretty much pegging the balance at $426,000. So again, that's just more of an account page to get the in and out of the insurance. $1190 for the CUME fund. VIP, because most of this is funded out of this. So working with the fire department, and we try and get all of our clients to implement this as they can. Give us those projects that you need, the years that you need them, their useful life, and let's see how much of that we can pay out of the CUME fund. The entire design of the CUME fund, whether it be entire year or CCD fund for a county or a city, is to try and get all those equipment needs taken care of. So as they've talked to you about, you know, leasing trucks and spreading that cost across a few years, they've done that for various of these apparatus. And you'll see the funding, almost everything lies in the cumulative fund, except for the $2 million training building that I look to cash flow out of the fire fund, and then the 2 fire stations looking to debt finance. So if we go back to the CUME fund, all of those expenditures we've got laid out in here, and I only printed through 2027, but it goes out beyond that to cover what's been provided. You've still got at the end of 2027 about $1.3 million in reserve. Unanticipated cost increases, other unanticipated revenue shortfalls, all that should again fit safely. One thing I did find out, we had a conversation on Friday. CUME fund back to 0.0333. I used the previous years, so there's probably another $45,000 a year still in revenue from captured in here, but we'll capture it in your next update. So it actually look even better than that. Rates, again, 22, you were at about 43.5 cents. This year, you're just north of 40 cents. Again, under this model, you're at about 43.5, 42, 44.2, 42.9. You're not required to be with any certain property tax rate. You know, that is based on your qualified decisions as to what is worth putting on the debt or what is worth putting on the tax rolls or not. So you're not bound by anything. You do have constitutional debt limits, which when we get to this next page, we'll talk about. For the civil township, your constitutional debt limit, which is basically general obligation bond debt, it's 1/3 of 2% of your AD. On that $4 billion, That's about $26 million that you could issue GO bonds for. That does not count lease rentals. Fire service area with a different cap because it's the different tax base that excludes. So with that, you could issue general obligation debt for, say, equipment. As we lease financed the fire department or the fire station, potentially you would lease finance. They don't count against that debt limit. So you have a lot of flexibility there. The ability to go out and issue debt for anything that the township would need to acquire as far as equipment, buildings, whatever, to fulfill your functions. When we go to Standard & Poor's and get a bond rating, this is one of the things they really like. You have a lot of capacity, which gives you a lot of flexibility. They have a sustainable plan that you have that shows you can operate in perpetuity. All those things go into getting you a really good bond rating and lesser interest costs. And again, because of the size of your township, you rate as high as a lot of good third-class cities, small counties. Levy, again, this is more of a work paper for us where we project out the actual levy. As we talked before about growth, limited in 24 and 25 at 4%. Then we go fire maximum levy. Again, you have a separate maximum levy per statute. Same growth factors applied. And in 2021, this shows the amount of that 50, where it was converted into dollars at $3,920,000. Since that point in time, you have had that grow according to this growth factor. So it is increased. You did not levy in 2023 $1.1 million of that. This model shows funding the most expensive model. I believe you're still going to have $340,000 of fire maximum levy, and you'll have this sustainable model. Shows that you can operate in perpetuity. Again, it is based under the assumptions at the end. I would encourage you to read those. They're the basis for all the projections. If we don't have a recession, or if we have a mild recession, that all the donut counties are going to continue to have excellent growth as we add jobs. We do a lot of economic development work for different units of government as well. We continue to see, I'm sure as you do here, warehouses being built, manufacturers occupying those, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars of high-tech equipment that is taxable or tippable. Jobs and that high-tech manufacturing distribution. Tax impacts. I always like these to, discuss with taxpayers if you look at it. For a $250,000 homestead, when they get to the township level, how much do they pay on that? 40 cents after income tax credits. Part of this $34 is the amount that the county council has directed away from your income tax pool to subsidize property taxes and buy down those property taxes. So they pay approximately 93. So $493 for all the services that they get. And if you look at, your fire, your EMS, the level of that service, the professionalism of that. Parks and Rec, I've always told you guys, Parks and Rec here is wonderful. We don't see this in a lot of other parts of the state. We don't even see this in a lot of other, A lot of that's probably reflected in your assessed value and your growth as your park and rec, and like the public safety. And I think you guys have done a great job of fleshing all that out. So you look at this $250,000 homestead, and again, we can change that number as you go forward into what you reflect of your community. But, you know, when you look at that per household, that's a lot of amenities that they get for under $500 a year. And I think that's a good thing to, again, discuss publicly and to show taxpayers when they have those questions. We've also included inside Avon. Pie charts. Again, a lot of this is to just give you some background information. When people come in and complain about tax rates and, you know, their taxes going up, very little of it has to do with you as a township unit of government. Vast majority is the school, and you'll see in the outside Avon example, it's 70%. And inside the town limits of Avon, it's still 61%. Or the lion's share. And again, I think that's a good thing for you to know is you have a small part of the pie here, and these are the things that we're providing. Comparison with you versus Guilford and Plainfield Fire Territory, they're at about 36 cents. You're contiguous to Wayne Township and Marion County at almost 79 cents. Township, Brownsburg Fire at about 27 cents. There are no requirements, just kind of giving you some background information of where it is that you sit in your neighborhood tax rate wise. Allocation of income tax funds. This was obviously more useful when we were allocating it to the different buckets. I'm going to leave it in there for now, and hopefully we get back to that. If not, we'll delete that. Then for any other information that you want to look at, these are the distributions of income taxes to the different entities within Hendricks County that you share in the income tax pool. For these projections, what we do, we build and maintain not only this, the distribution to the units, on the following page, the historical, which is the amount that's held at the state, and use this to help make our projections of what we think I can hold, and then split it across. And we do that distribution model to different units of government. If you have certain appeals, perfect example, your 2021 excess levy appeal, because it was not debt related, it drew income tax. And every time you deploy more of that undeployed fire levy, it draws income tax beginning the next year. Model allows us, when you say, hey, you know, what happens if I only deploy $1 million or $2 million? Like going in the long run, you can also tell and run that model in the inverse if one of the townships or fire, what does it do to you? Does not apply to debt levies since 2005. So you can't garner more income taxes, nor can your neighbors, because they do a big debt issuance. Prior to 2005, we used to do that. In fact, that used to be one of our models that we would heavily hit the tax rolls with debt service in order to generate income tax to pay firefighters in a new firehouse. But legislature decided in 2004 or 5 that they didn't like that idea, and that debt should be discouraged. So again, income tax models for all different units in there, historical for the state. Here was that $16 million I was showing you that's undistributed or was under-distributed according to this formula, and they fleshed out to all the units of government in May. The requirement is that they retain approximately 15% help with any revenue fluctuations. I really think there's $40+ million in income taxes for Hendricks County. These amounts should probably be bigger, and they will probably continue forward, particularly if state budget agency continues to be very conservative on going forward. So again, I feel pretty comfortable that you've got a conservative model as it comes to income taxes. I'm more comfortable with funding this. Flows, looking again at all the funds in total. This is how we, one, prove out that we didn't need a tax warrant, but also if we need to make any interfund. And we'll continue to maintain those just so that we can keep you from getting in that situation where hopefully you don't have to do interfund transfers, but definitely don't want to get back to the tax warrant. Then again, the last couple of pages are the assumptions that make the projections come true. I would encourage you to, read through those, see if there are any things that you don't agree with from a political or fiscal body standpoint that you would not go forward with. Run those through the trustee. We can make adjustments to anything that you want. Most of this on the revenue side are projected models that we've worked with. But from the expenditure side and what it is that you want to do this, we can certainly lay it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have one question on the next page. You scroll
Up?
No, down.
Okay.
Where it talks about projected interest rates.
Yeah.
3%.
Yeah, that is the interest paid on the amount that is in your historical model of the income tax. The state, and again, we're 2 years behind on collections, but the state pays you an amount of interest each month based on what their table balance is. They don't know exactly how much is in there. It's all the state.
So that's on the income side, not on the expense side.
Right, that's on the income side. I put it at 3 because that's about what it came out in the second half of 22 when they gave us some actual data. Making about $125,000 to $130,000 a month in interest. Where at the beginning of 2022, you were only making. So it's just to kind of capture that. Again, I 3 and I left it across the long time period. I don't foresee that we're going back to the low interest rates that we had. If I go back to what I would call normal, I think I would look at post or pre-2007 housing bubble.
I was questioning it based upon some of the projects that are anticipated in this, and the financing rates for those is not going to be 3%. But
No, and to that point, I think we're probably going back close to 6% tax exempt long-term interest rates, which is where we were, pre-2007. If we do that, we're obviously going to have better interest earnings. It'll be better than this 3%. But again, I want to try and keep this model fairly conservative. And we know they're at least paying that much based on the investments that Hendricks County has in their income tax.
that fills in some of that. things that I didn't get by reading.
Then the scenario A, the amount of material, but again, both of those sustainable going forward.
Okay, policy updates. Yeah, short-term disability.
All right, so I'll try to be quick. I know we've been here for a while, but the first policy is, this one, okay. Sorry, I'm trying to find the quote here. Is a short-term disability policy that we're putting in place for township and parks employees. The fire department currently has their own similar short-term disability policy. This will take it over for a policy we're paying through the standard, save us approximately $6,500 a year by moving this in-house. It's very similar. They'll follow FMLA, giving staff a maximum of 480 hours, which is in the last 5 years, we have used our short-term disability policy 3 times, so it's not something that we use a lot with the township and parks. Fire department's a whole other story. For a policy, and they've had it for a while, so.
Same rules of engagement and whatnot, because that's what is.
Yep.
Leaving it wide open.
Oh, yes, it's, yeah, they will follow FMLA policies for the leave.
Does anybody?
Again, this was something that Ryan discussed with each of us individually, so I didn't have any issues with it when he explained it.
Okay, so the second policy is a background check policy. We do background checks upon hire. This is saying we will also do them every 3 years, unless you are involved with the care of a child on a daily basis, and then we will do a background check yearly. So that covers our park employees that will be in the schools, which is part of the requirement there too. They not suggested, told us that we need to do this every year for those. So,
I think it's smart.
Yeah.
I think it's smart to do and saves us some potential liability down the road.
Yep, that is one of the reasons we are putting this in place. Our new insurance companies asked us to put this and a couple other in place that we'll see next month. We weren't quite ready to roll those out yet.
Perfect.
All right. They don't need to vote on it to change our policy, but we just need.
Modified policy.
You would think separately.
I move we adopt, well, let's see, we need to do them probably one at a time, don't we? I move we adopt the proposed change of short-term disability.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right?
And then just the background check now.
We adopt the proposed background checks policy.
I will second that as well.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
Salary comparisons.
yes.
Sorry, that's next, that's next on the list.
Yep.
So we'll start with the fire departments. The first page is the departments that we included in our salary survey this year.
Decatur Township, Wayne Township, Westfield, Noblesville, Brownsburg, Plainfield, and Fishers fire departments. Start with the chiefs. As you can see, there's still a big gap between, so this is low in the average of those departments, and then this is the highest, and we are here in red on all of them. You can see there's a gap there. We didn't fix that last year. We talked about it, but we didn't fix it. We were trying to do a total overhaul, which we've done. Chief Brock has done. We'll talk about that a little bit later, and he can present that to you when he is ready. But we've all seen it, and I think that it's a good start to get some of these numbers more in line with where they need to be, all the way down. So from top to bottom. The next one, our support services director, assistant mechanic. Again, those all look fairly good. Next is our administrative assistant, our fire investigator, inspector, and public education. Last year, we did give a big bump to the admin assistant and public education to get them kind of more in line. They were fairly low last year, so I think we're still doing good going into this year. And then again, with Chief Brock's plan, I think we're good moving forward as well. Our battalion chief, lieutenants, and chauffeur salaries. Again, you can see there's some gaps in some of them. If you have any questions, please stop me as I'm going through them.
I noticed on the numbers page.
Yep.
Of what that you provided us, we had some blanks. We just had some people who did
They
not.
either didn't have those positions or they didn't provide them to us.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Westfield didn't pay any different for their chauffeur than they do any other position. So that was just kind of that. And then, yeah, some of them, they don't have those positions. Like Decatur Township doesn't have a public educator, so they didn't provide us that salary. Headers this year, I just did probationary and fourth year. We left out the middle ones, but they were all still kind of same in line. We did the fourth year because that's what our certified salaries with the 77 fund is off of. So you can kind of see that. Some things that I did want to point out about our fourth year and our certified salary. Every year, 77 fund releases list of everyone that's involved. We are 18th out of 127 fire departments that are in that 77 fund. 40 out of all of them, so the police and fire. So 287 total. So I think we're looking pretty good there. We're in the top 14% across the state there. Paramedics, we're still doing great there. Second year in probationary paramedics. Any questions about fire? Like I said, I think Chief Brock's plan will help fix some of these gaps that we have, plus give some bumps in some areas that might need them. They'll go through that when he's ready to do his budget presentations. Anytime, anytime of today. Next, we're going to move into township employees. This year, we did include the township board there at the end. So the first couple positions of the deputy trustee and the human resources director. Again, I listed each of the different divisions we pulled from. Not everywhere has the same kind of job, so there is a variety of different places we pulled from, similar to last year's. I think we're both good, both right around the same. Again, low, average, highest, and then we're over here in orange. The next are what we consider our hourly employees. We pay by the hour, which is our trustee, our township assistant, and our accounting assistant, and the different places we kind of pulled those numbers from. As you can see, trustees way kind of low compared to everyone else. Our assistant's investigator and accounting assistant is pretty good. I don't think we've given a raise to the trustee. Get that kind of more in line of some other places around us.
So on the assistance investigator, if that, how are
So
we
we
higher
pay-
than the high?
We pay higher than,
So we pay higher than the high, so we are the high?
so ours aren't included in these numbers. These
Oh,
are
okay,
everywhere
okay,
else.
gotcha,
Yep,
Gotcha,
yep, these are everywhere else than us.
gotcha.
Okay, sorry. We added you guys in kind of last minute. So, here we go with the board, which is fine. We can do that. It was easy, simple enough to do. So I did both towns and townships just to kind of get a comparison. So I did kind of all the local towns around. They usually meet 2 times a month as opposed to us just once a month. But then you can see, and so these are monthly salaries for the township board or the board members, period, township or town. As you can see, here's the lowest, the average, the highest, and then we're kind of here like average with your guys' salaries. So that might be something that we want to look into as well, kind of bringing up into that where we want to go with it. Do we want to go with some of the towns or the townships or how we want to do that? Any questions about the township? Last but not least are our parks. You can kind of see we did Avon, Brownsburg, Danville, Hendricks County, Noblesville, Plainfield, Scienceville. I believe those are all the same places we used last year. Here's our upper. Again, low, average, high, and then we're here in the reddish color. Our recreation coordinator, we found out was a little lower than what everyone else is paying, but everyone else seems to be pretty good. Maintenance, superintendent, and groundskeeper. We do pay our groundskeeper kind of on a scale, so this is the lower end of the scale, where everyone else kind of just pays a flat fee for the groundskeeper. So this does vary a little bit depending on years of service our groundskeepers have. But I still think we're still fairly good with that. Hourly employees, we did our event staff, our lead event staff, and our event coordinators, and we found out that we were very low in all of those positions. So we're going to look at and see if we can make some adjustments to those salaries. Murphy Park staff, concessions, lifeguards, pool managers, aquatics director, all look good, all within ranges of everything. We're actually the highest here with I'm the highest for our pool managers, so we're pretty good. And that this one's our camp counselors, camp director, naturalist, and administrative assistants. I think we're all doing good there. No issues. We did include this year, even though it really hasn't started, our before and after care programs. We just pulled numbers of programs that were ran by parks departments, not schools, not other corporations. So there's Brownsburg, Carmel, Mooresville, and us. And you can see we're pretty good. We're pretty in line with where everyone else is there. Any issues with their salaries yet? That is the end of the township parks. Questions? I know we kind of went through that pretty fast.
So the consistent high, is that the same typical entity in those, or is it across the board? Okay. So does that, I'm not, because it's gonna throw off the average right now.
Yes, it will.
Unless you're looking at mean or median, but, so if it's consistently that much higher, do we need to throw them out at some point? Do we need to pull in other ones?
So, I mean, Laura chose these because they
I
was,
don't mean, I guess like just parts.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
The reason we did it that way is because parks that did similar services as
Okay.
us,
Yeah.
because there's several in our county right now that we've kind of outgrown. Like, I don't know if it's fair to compare to some of the other ones because we have so many amenities. So the parks we selected were similar in employee size and then acreage.
Okay. So that's why I don't know, even then, paring that down to getting it, I mean, even if it's smaller, to
Yeah.
make sure the scope of services is the same,
Mhm.
that's more important than,
Yeah.
than really everything.
Yeah, we can look at those again next year.
You'll be giving recommendations to Ryan on uses.
Yeah, so the few that I pointed out, like I said, I think Danny's solution is fixed, or Chief Brock, I'm sorry, has fixed, not fixed it completely, but it's getting closer to where we need to be with our fire department. And I think we've all kind of seen that and kind of agreed with that. But yeah, there's a few positions that we talked about that I want to talk to Laura over and see if we can come up with something to get those increased.
Because then those will then need to be factored into the 5-year plan that we just looked at, right?
All of my numbers are factored in.
Yours are factored.
Is it, is our, yes.
Yours-
Oh, so you've done the increases?
Yeah, I did it based on.
There you
Oh,
go.
that was in Jeff's. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, up next, job description updates. So the fire public education.
Danny, can you come into our part? You want to make it easier to do? Go ahead. You can-
Yeah, I can.
Yours.
Is it up there?
I'm getting there.
I haven't reread it.
So the first one, the public educator, so a lot of that was just like he spoke earlier, taking it out from underneath, one of the deputy chiefs and putting it under the fire marshal. That was a lot of the changes in it. I think took out a certification that's no longer valid, and replaced it with what is currently being offered for that. That was just the big, and then aligning it with how we've aligned the rest of them that we've approved this year was the big changes with the public educator. Any questions about that one?
Very dumb question. I think that doesn't have really relevance. So previously the CPR and the car seat technician wasn't a requirement. Public education.
It was, it's where I put it and I redefined it.
Oh,
It's where it was
Yeah.
located, it was a
Oh, okay,
move, it was a
okay.
change.
Sorry, okay. Okay, I was like, I'm just teaching them.
Some of this is also formatting. So we did present this early on, and then Chief Porter, Chief Phillips, and myself, we want to make anything we present to you coming forward more uniform. These things in just to meet a certain person, a certain position, we're not gonna do that anymore, so.
The administrative assistant, I think the biggest changes were just some reformatting, rewording some of the things that were listed. Nothing major. We did add the CPR instructor and the car seat technician. While they won't do this on a daily basis, they will be a backup for the public educator.
They will. So they, through 2 different public educators now, the admin assistant has constantly participated. And they, that's the thing, if we're gonna do that, that's the way we're gonna operate, then we'll define it as such.
And then just some more formatting changes to make them all kind of similar to the ones that we did at the beginning of the year, or earlier this year.
This might be a dumb question. Has that position been posted?
It's not, I have to have this done first.
Yeah, we have to change this first before we
I
post
was
it.
having a moment there.
So it'll probably be maybe this week.
Yeah, maybe
Early
this
next
week,
week.
I'm like,
pretty
can I
quick.
walk by a new admin assistant and not say hi?
The thing too, we'll probably change where people are located in their office along this hiring. We've talked about that some, it won't be anything drastic, but more than likely to be located in front.
Okay, I'll let you guys figure that out.
That's correct.
Okay, very good. Any other questions on those? Okay. And
Do you need a
then,
motion
Taking
for
up
those?
motions over this.
You need to approve those changes to policy.
Yep.
Okay.
I already turned it down.
that's where I was headed.
What's wrong with that? Okay. You need to do them separate? The new job description for the public educator as presented by the HR director and Chief Brock.
Second?
Okay, I will make another motion to approve the administrative assistant for the fire department as proposed by the HR director and Chief Brock.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next up is surplus equipment list.
Surplus equipment.
Yeah, I should probably talk about that.
You should.
So we've had a purchase of new equipment lately, a couple staff cars. One of our vehicles are being reappropriated to the township, so it's not going anywhere, it's just staying here. That's a 2013 Chevy Tahoe that was formerly Chief Smith's. Got about about 180,000 miles on it. Go out and do weed control, so that's why that's not on here. It's staying. The 2014 Chevy Tahoe was in fire prevention. Again, fire prevention not being the face of our department. We would like them to look like our department presented. Taking a vehicle out that's been run down and is getting up in mileage. We want people to be safe, number one. And number two, I don't want to keep dumping money into service. Surplus, we'd like to ask them surplus 2014 Chevy Tahoe, the 2003 Ford F-350 pickup. That's a tank. That's a big vehicle. It's been sitting in a barn, taking up space and serving no use. So we've had cars parked everywhere. Wanting to reduce that. In the short term, as we take delivery, there's going to be more coming in, but we'll come to you all to purpose or surplus.
So we will always ask this question.
Sure.
How do you plan to surplus it? Are we selling it? Or what are you doing with it?
Yeah. Been asked on the 2014 to potentially donate it to a volunteer department in the county. So I would leave that up to you all. Do that. I don't have a preference either way. The value of the vehicle is approximately, do you know the value of the vehicle, Chief? $3,500. So it wasn't worth trading in. They're going to give us less than that. Selling it outright, I really don't know what I'm going to do with $4,500 in the scope of our budget. I'm not opposed either way. The 2003 Ford F-350, we would probably put that on something. We can either do a municipal bid and put it out for everyone, or we can put it internal and just do a sealed bid process internally.
Oh, higher value, about 11,000, like they said the prior bid was.
But again, in the scope of our budget, 11,000, we can do some things with. That's going to buy lights. That's a lighting package for one of our vehicles. We can do a sealed bid internally with a minimum, or we can put it on municipal bid with a minimum and allow anybody around to bid on it who might need it.
That's just so you know, we will always ask that, even if it's like a.
No, it's fine.
Don't
Those will
feel
always be the
computer.
answers. Municipal bid's always the go-to,
Okay.
we could use. The other one is a sealed bid internally if it's something some of our people may be interested in bidding on. Department. Okay, the other department that asked for it is listing. Okay, listing fire.
Yeah, we can, I don't
You give it away in the county, here, please.
Okay. So is the motion then to go ahead and declare both of these surplus equipment, and then we do more resolutions for the donation? Okay, so we're okay to move forward with this resolution for both? Okay.
Okay, I move we adopt resolution 072423 this is 01, I guess.
No, because, no, yeah.
We had some other things
Yeah,
to be
the motion,
approved,
but
but not a resolution. Declaring the surplus equipment listed.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, any public comment or wishes to be heard? Yeah.
Ray Mulvihill, Avon District Vice President for the Local 4406. To echo what Trustee Miller said, us getting meet and confer, it's something we already kind of had going, just not the paper side. Thanks to everyone that came out and voted, all firefighters, paramedics, with us enacting that. We got congratulations from all across the state to us for being able to accomplish that. Just one step in our growing, right? Like Chief Brock said, thanks everyone for showing up here. We appreciate it and showing the support. One great thing we have about our union is we're 100% membership. Not a lot of fire unions can say that. We're kind of on an island with 100%. So just wanted to thank everyone's support and continue moving forward. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, we will just need a motion to adjourn. We will meet again on the 15th at 3:00.
4:54 p.m.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.